Hello, everyone. Welcome to LWI Remembers, a special project sponsored by LWI's Institutional Memory Project. My name is Abigail Perdue, and I'm the current president of the Legal Writing Institute, and it's my great pleasure to have with me today two legends of legal writing, Laurel Oates and Chris Rideout. Laurel was one of the co-founders of the Legal Writing Institute, and also one of the organizers of the first biennial for the Legal Writing Institute. In 2025, LWI actually renamed its influential teaching award in honor of Laurel. She's also one of founders of Seattle University's Legal Writing Program, which is one of the most prestigious writing programs in the nation. She directed that program from 1982 until 2012 and still teaches in the program. She's also the co-author of 5 books: The Legal Writing Handbook, Just Research, Just Memos, Just Briefs, and Just Writing. And she's also the recipient of many well-deserved awards and accolades, among them the Burton Award for Outstanding Contributions to Legal Writing and the Marjorie Rombauer Award for Contributions to the Teaching of Legal Writing. Thank you so much, Laurel, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we also have with us J. Chris Rideout, who's a retired professor who formerly taught at Seattle University School of Law. From 1981 to 1984, he co-directed a regional writing project funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. And as an outgrowth of that project, he, along with Laurel, helped to co-found the Legal Writing Institute, helped to organize the first LWI biennial, and also served as the president of the Legal Writing Institute. Later, he served as a founding editor-in-chief of the journal, Legal Writing, and he's also mentored others through his work as a mentor and facilitator with the Writers' Workshop, sponsored by LWI. In 2009, Chris received the Mary S. Lawrence Award in recognition of his countless contributions to legal writing scholarship. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today. It's an honor to have you both with us. So let's move to when you decided to incorporate and form what is today the Legal Writing Institute. Why did you make that decision, and what did that process entail?
In 1985, the Ralph Brill had managed to get a AALS legal writing conference. And so we went to that conference and we had a lunch. Unfortunately, Mary Lawrence and Marjorie, who have much shorter legs than Chris and I do, kind of got lost and didn't make it to that lunch. But there were, I think, what do you think, Chris? 14 of us who did make
Maybe, yeah.
it. And over sandwiches, we decided that we needed an organization that would be able to carry on the work of the 84 conference.
It just seemed like the natural thing to do. By the end of the 84 conference, people were coming up to us and saying, we've got to keep doing this. So it was a logical thing that because there happened to be a AALS-sponsored conference the next year, it was just logical that anybody who was interested go to that luncheon, and we kind of hammered out the rough outlines of the Institute. Bylaws, conferences were the mainstay of the Institute for a law, but also a newsletter, perhaps a journal. There was talk of starting the surveys. So it was all an extension of the 84 conference. There was so much momentum. It was easy to do.
It was wonderful in that there were people from across the country. And that's one of the things Chris and I wanted it to be, is not associated just with us, an organization that was a nationwide representative organization: private schools, public schools, small schools, big schools, schools with no legal writing programs, schools with pretty advanced legal writing programs.
Did those people become the first board of directors of the Legal Writing Institute?
More or less.
Things really were evolving very organically. And again, there was no Zoom, there was no email, there was no listserv. So we're doing everything kind of the long, hard way of getting it. But we were able to do it very quickly, in part because Chris and I weren't just in charge. And if we wanted to do something, we didn't have to get approval of anybody to do it. We just did it.
I think for the original board, if you wanted to be on the board, you were on it. There were about the right number of people. But in 1986, WI hosted the second biennial conference, and we had our first board meeting. And some people had dropped off the board by then. We elected officers at the 1986 meeting during the conference, and that's when it became more official. And after that, we always had elections for the board.
What did you intend the mission of the Legal Writing Institute to be?
Well, the early conferences were informative. There were a lot of people who started teaching legal writing, but they had no resources. And there was a lot of turnover among people who taught legal writing. People would come to a conference, you'd really like them, you'd look for them at the next conference. Well, they weren't teaching legal writing any longer. So much of it was informative, how to teach this stuff and what to teach, and partly supportive. We weren't narrowly an advocacy organization at all. But like I said, status was a big issue and job security were big issues. And Jill Ramsfield started the surveys. So in that sense, it was an advocacy organization, but not primarily.
I agree. I really wanted it in the early years to be focused on pedagogy more than advocacy. And later on, I mean, different people had different agendas. And that's when Allwood came in and took kind of the role of being more of an advocacy group than the Institute was. We were, particularly since so many people were still on short-term contracts, really didn't intend to stay, giving people the resources or making resources available to them was the primary purpose, probably through the 80s, and then it changed gradually in the 90s. And
It's interesting to me to hear that because it seems as though a lot has changed, but some things haven't. We just did a survey of the membership this spring, and the membership indicated that the most helpful thing that we can do and provide for them is hosting conferences and workshops. The topic that they're most interested in is teaching. And what are we doing well? Again, creating that community, collaboration, being welcoming, mentorship, networking opportunities. So it sounds like a lot has changed, but there are some core things about LWI that haven't changed. And I'm glad they haven't changed.
me too.
They've
Yeah.
stayed true for upwards of 40 years, and I hope they stay true in perpetuity for the future of LWI. When you think about the organization today, do you believe we're fulfilling your vision of what LWI would become?
Chris and I had no clue what it would become. I mean, to be honest, we're going to have a conference. Oh, that conference went well. We should have a second conference. Oh, maybe we should have an organization. I look at the structure of LWI today with all of its committees, how many people are actively involved in the Institute. I mean, being president today is very, very different than it was in the early years. It's now a full-time job. Not that Chris wasn't doing a full-time job with it, but it's just so much more complicated today than it was before. So no, I walked into the last conference last summer and just took a look around and thought, this is wonderful. This is wonderful.
I feel the same way. It's just a wonderful organization. I feel like Laurel and I kicked the thing started, but there have been so many people who have contributed to building this organization. The one thing I would say in response to your original question, Abby, is that I always had in the back of my mind, and I think Laurel did, that we were building a discipline. Both Laurel and I had to make a choice in those early years. We had no guarantee that we'd have a job the next year. We had made up titles and things like that. But we both committed ourselves to
I
doing
was
this.
empress of legal writing for a while.
Oh, yeah. We committed ourselves to doing this and feeling that this was worth making a discipline out of.
Well, thank you so much. I really can't put into words what an impact that you've had on me and on every single person who teaches legal writing. We're all better professors, better teachers, better scholars because of your work, because of Legal Writing Institute and all the resources that it provides. And thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you, Abby, for continuing the Institute and for all your work.
Yeah, and for this particular project, I know it's a big project.